Welcome. The topic for today is lighting the Menorah. How? What's the procedure that we use when we actually come to light the Menorah on the nights of Chanukah? Over 2,100 years ago, with the rise of the Greek Empire, the Jewish people underwent probably the hardest challenge that they had ever had till that time in history. Before that, even nations of the world believed in spirituality. The nations of the world that had exiled the Jewish people previously had all believed in spirituality, just their mistake was that they worshipped certain spiritual powers. They thought that the supernatural powers controlled the laws of nature. Whether it was Egypt, Babylonia, Persia, they all believed that spirituality existed. But it was during the rise of the Greek Empire that changed. There wasn't anymore so much the idea of idol worship. Yes, for certain there was still idol worship in the time of the Greek Empire, as we know from Greek mythology, but the dominant philosophy of the time was worship of the human intellect. The human intellect became supreme, and only whatever man could grasp had reality. This was the idea of Greece. They wanted to proliferate in the entire world their philosophy and culture. They didn't only want to conquer lands for pure purposes of conquerage. They wanted that their culture should infiltrate all the lands of their occupancy. And so, being that they took over Israel, they wanted that Greek culture and philosophy should infiltrate the lives of all the people in Israel as well. As we know, this idea of life, that all that exists is the physical, is totally antithetical to a Jewish lifestyle. From the time of the giving of the Torah at Har Sinai, we know for sure that spirituality exists. We know that God is here. We know that there's someone who's running everything in a very planned way. Of course, there's spirituality. Our lives itself embody this idea. Once a week on Shabbos, we stop for a whole day. We stop doing any work. That's opposite to the idea of all there is physicality. If all there is physicality, why don't you work on Shabbos as well? We stop for each one of the Yomim Tovim. We stop for each one of the Jewish holidays. We celebrate the Jewish holidays because we believe that on that day there's a certain spiritual reality that is available to us even beyond the spirituality that's available on other days. All the days of the holidays revolve around Rosh Chodesh. And so the setting of the day of Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month, is really a very spiritual act. We do a circumcision to each one of our male children who are born. If you look at the world as just being physical, why would you hurt or inflict any type of change on the body of a young child? We do it to inculcate the message that the reason that we live our lives is not only physical, we're here for a spiritual purpose. There's something greater than pure physical pleasure. And so, when the Greeks came into the land of Israel, they didn't give the Jewish citizens much choice. It wasn't like, we believe in this, and you can continue to believe in your ideas. If they wanted that their philosophy should be the dominant philosophy, even among the Jews. And so they prohibited Jews from keeping Shabbos, from keeping the Shabbat, from setting the Rosh Chodesh, from setting the days of the Yom Tov, the Yomim Tovim, and from circumcising the children, from Bris Milah, from Brit Milah. They prohibited those parts of our lifestyle that so clearly cry out the reality of spirituality. It was a dark time in the history of the Jewish people. There were some weaker individuals who even gave in to the Greek type of lifestyle. They bought into it. They started to become and pattern their lives more like the Greeks, called the Mityavnim. But there was a group of Jewish people who rallied behind the sons of the great Kohen Gadol at the time, Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. And they fought with all their might, through self-sacrifice, against the forces of the Greek Empire. Through great miracles, they were able to force the entire army of the superpower of Greece to leave their holding in Israel. Almost unbelievable. A small group of devout Jewish people who were willing to give up their lives for what they believed in were able to force a superpower of the world out of their country. That itself proved beyond a doubt that there is spirituality. The only way they could have won is with God's help. The only way they could have won, if there really is someone watching, someone orchestrating everything that goes on over here. The war itself was the proof for the Jewish philosophy of life that triumphed over the Greek philosophy. And so therefore the Sanhedrin of the time, just after the miracle took place, said to all the people, we must remember this great miracle. Yes, of course, we must remember the miracle of the war. It's certainly a great victory that God has given us today to be able to live as a free people, to be able to live with our beliefs, our true beliefs in our land. But the message of the miracle is really what needs to be proliferated. And so the Sanhedrin instituted that each and every year, when these days of Chanukah come around, for 8 days, every Jewish person, a boy over bar mitzvah, a girl over bas mitzvah, should have the obligation to light the Chanukah candles. When we light the Chanukah candles, it's not just about a historical event, a victory that was once, a miracle that took place many years ago. It's about a certain message that we live with every day of our lives. Said the Sanhedrin, the idea of lighting the candles is pirsum hanes. We want you to make this well known. We want you to publicize this message. Give it over to everyone in the world. It's not only about physicality. When we live here in this world, our world is enmeshed with spirituality. We need to have Shabbos. We need to have Yom Tov. We need to inculcate in our children that there's a spiritual motive and goal to life. This message is especially relevant till today. Many countries in the world where somehow the culture of the nation is more physically based, especially in places where there's tremendous competition to acquire physical possessions. It's very easy to slip into the mindset, well, really all there is a physical goal, isn't it? Isn't the idea just to acquire physical possessions, money? Comes the days of Chanukah and gives us an insight. It lights up our understanding. It lights up our lives. No. All of life is not only about physical acquisitions. What it's about is about using every experience we have in life to connect to the spiritual reality, to connect to God's presence who dwells in our hearts. And so today, what we wanted to discuss is the procedure exactly how to follow through on lighting the Chanukah candles each and every night. What rules and regulations halachically guide us in how we have to light the Chanukah candles? The first rule that we have is that when we light the Chanukah candles, they cannot be moved. Wherever you choose to place the Menorah, that's where the Chanukah candles need to remain. And so therefore, beforehand, a little earlier during the day, before sundown comes, before the beginning of night comes and we have to light the candles, choose the place which is best for your Menorah. We discussed this in a previous learning session. Where might be the best place to place the Menorah? If you want it on the windowsill, don't first light it in one place and carry it to the windowsill. It doesn't work. You want another room, don't light it in one room and carry it to the other room. Put it initially in the place that you want to light it, because we don't move the Menorah afterwards. Similarly, if you're lighting with oil or you're lighting with candles, the oil and candles have to have enough in them to last for the minimal required amount, which is a half an hour. Candles must burn for half an hour. You can't add oil afterwards. So that was the first rule. When we come to light, we have to have everything set up and in place for the lighting of the candles. Second rule is the following. All we really need to light to fulfill this obligation each and every night is one candle. That fulfills a person's obligation. Now, many know that what we customarily do each and every night of Chanukah is to add a candle. Because the miracle got greater and greater, first night we light one, second night two, third night three, etc., until we get to 8 nights. And a person could think, well, don't I need 8 candles the last night? And the answer is no. We do that as an extra that proliferates the message of the miracle even more. But really, all you need to light to fulfill the obligation is one. And so therefore, if a person finds themselves out on the way, or they went to the cupboard to check, and exactly that night they ran out of candles, all they have is one candle. Remember that just by lighting that one candle as a Chanukah candle, a person can fulfill their obligation even on the 8th night by lighting even one candle. As you know, the third rule, we light in addition to that one candle, or however many candles we're lighting every night, this special candle called the shamash. What's the purpose of the shamash? The shamash is for a whole different reason. And here's the third rule about lighting. The third rule about lighting is that we're not supposed to get any benefit from the light of the candles. You're not allowed to get any personal benefit. You can't take a book and read it close to the candlelight. If you need to see some small print, you can't get that extra little bit of light from the candles. If you want to light the stove and you just need a match to be lit, you can't put it to the Chanukah candles. The light of the Chanukah candles cannot be used for our personal use. And so therefore, because the Sanhedrin was concerned that maybe there will be some Jewish people who will exactly need a little burning flame at that moment. And it will be a big challenge for them. They're going to have to really hold themselves back from taking a flame, taking a fire from that light. They said, you know what? Every night we're going to light an extra candle. You light the special one for that night, which is your Chanukah candle or candles, and you also light an extra one just in case. Just in case you're going to need some sort of light to read by, or it's very dark in the room, you need to see where you're going, or you're going to have to light another flame, use that other candle. And therefore, we don't really get any enjoyment from the actual candles. When we come to light the candles, we pronounce on the first night 3 brachas, 3 blessings, and on the following night, only 2 blessings. The blessings that are pronounced are said before we actually light the candles. First, we stand ready to light, and we say the blessings. We then proceed to light the candle after we finish the blessings. And there's a paragraph that's possible to say, it's printed in the Sidurim, Haneris Halalu, that tells us about the greatness of the candles. As we finish that paragraph, we finish lighting the rest of the candles. And so, once again, we say the first night 3 blessings that you could find in the Siddur. On the second night, 3rd, 4th, 5th, on the subsequent nights, we say only the first 2 blessings. And the last point is, which candle is the first one to light? When you have 6, 7, 8, well, where do you start from? So here's the rule. You have your menorah in front of you, and every night we always start from the right side of the menorah. So if your menorah is in front of you, you go first to the right side. The first candle, the first night, you put all the way on the right side of the menorah. You come to light it, you stand a little bit to the side, and you light that first candle. When it comes the second night, and each subsequent night, you always add the new candle to the left of the previous one. And so, if the first night, you lit the first candle all the way to the right, the second night, you light one a little closer to the left side, one next to it. Third night, fourth night, fifth night, until we fill up all 8, progressing left. When we begin to light, you don't go back to light that first one all the way on the right. You always light the new candle first. Which means, right before you say the blessing, try to position yourself all the way toward the left side of the menorah. When you're closest to the left side, you'll be closest to the newest candle of that night. We say the brachas, we say the blessings, and then you light the new candle for that night, which will be the one most left from all the candles previously that were started at the right side of the menorah. And we light each candle in order, moving subsequently toward the right. May God help. And we'll be able to do this precious mitzvah that we have just once a year for 8 nights. We will be able to do it according to all the halachic particulars. And maybe we're able to experience the message of those lights. The message that God is here with us. The message that spirituality does exist. The message that in every fiber and being of our life, we live with a goal. It's not only about growing physically. It's about connecting to that special light of God in each and every one of our lives.